Hey, it's TDA, and today it's time for some more Mindustry. Last time around, I completed the Creators level, and I have a lot of these kind of like random levels available to me, but I'm just gonna stick to the main storyline missions for now. It seems we have quite a few of those available actually. We have the Fungal Pass over here, we have the Ruinous Shores over here, and then there was another one in here, the Biomass Synthesis Facility. Now, which one to do first? Let's see, this one has a threat medium, this one has threat medium, and this one has threat medium and an enemy base. So I guess these are just levels that have more waves like we've done before, and this one actually has an enemy base. Now, why not go for that one? Might be fun. I have a feeling it's going to be a lot more relevant in this particular planet where I'm launching from, because we are actually going to bring quite a few resources with us, but you can bring something that you're not actually producing on that particular zone. So it makes sense to kind of keep launching from the most advanced zone, and I think we also get launch pads or something like that later on. But anyway, for now, that means I cannot really bring a lot of silicon because I am producing it here. I just don't want to wait around for it, but I also don't think we need that much to go. So yeah. Well, let's go and see what the next level will bring us. It looks like we actually start out with some buildings, so that's nice. Looks like this is going to be the tutorial for using ground units, which is kind of funny since I already built them, but still, we are going to use some units to defend buildings and attack the enemy, and the enemy is actually right around the corner. Look over here. Yeah, it's a tiny little base, doesn't have too much defense, it's just a couple of duos, so shouldn't be too much to take out. I guess it does have a lot of scattered towers, but these are anti-air if I remember correctly. Let me double check. This is still all kind of new to me. Yeah, this only targets air, so yeah, as long as I attack by ground, I should be able to just wipe out most of this. Again, just a couple of duos here. Are they going to be producing any units? It seems like it's just drills, a repair point, a shard. Yeah, this should be a pretty fast level. Also looks like we start out with a steam generator that I actually haven't built myself yet, so that's interesting. It's just drawing in some water. It's going to supply us some power, I assume, once this coal gets up and running. This coal is going in this junction. For some reason, some of this coal is... Oh no, okay, actually the coal is going to go in here. Some of it's going to go into the generator, and the other half is going to go into the silicon smelter. It has a couple of drills over here that are producing sand. It's not super effective all in all, but I guess it will get the job done, especially considering the enemy won't actually be attacking us. Let me double check once again. No unit production over here. Nope, no waves as far as I know. So we can just build and take it easy. Okay, so no need to overcomplicate this. I can just start building some of these daggers that need lead and silicon. The silicon is dripping in very slowly from this facility over here. I did upgrade all my drills already, but as you can see, it's still super slow, mostly because I don't have enough sand coming in. So I'm gonna have to change that, and then we can upgrade our facility just a tiny little bit. And there we go. I'm probably completely overdoing it for this particular level, but here you can see I built some additional sand production, some additional coal production over here, which means I now am producing quite a bit more of this silicon than I was before. The problem is I don't really need it anymore because I can only build 8 crawlers and 8 daggers, and that is it. So yeah, I have my little army already over here, and I can just start moving out. I also built some copper, by the way, but I guess you figured that out by now. Can I just... banzai these in? Let's see how far they get. Probably pretty far, because yeah, these suicide in, and if I can take these out, then we can just... Oh, this is actually attacking my main units. I keep forgetting that in this particular version of the game, my own unit can actually be attacked. So I kind of need to zoom out and stay safe, I guess. Or they have a pretty long range. There we go. But yeah, I can just now run in and take out this entire base. And there we go, base destroyed, sector captured. Well, I think it's time for another level because this one wasn't much of one. So I actually went back to the crater and unlocked the core foundation, which is an upgraded version of like our main base. And the game is now telling me to place a foundation core over the shard core. That is interesting. Can I do that? I do have the resources for that, so yeah, you know, why not? How much larger is it? It's like 1 space larger. So if I take this out, can I just plug it in? Ooh, it's instant. That is nice. You don't actually need to wait for it to upgrade or anything like that. That's super cool, actually. Now that did just cost me a whole bunch of resources that I kind of wanted to use to bring to the next level, so let's see how we can manage that. So I guess I just sit around waiting for more resources to be produced and be transported into my foundation so I can actually bring them to the next level. Now the nice thing is, because I upgraded this, I can produce more ships, more units in general, but also more monos. So you can see we have a small army of them mining all over the place, and they seem to prioritize whichever resource they can mine that you are lowest on. For example, right now you can see them going for the copper because I had slightly less copper than I had lead. But as soon as the lead dips lower, then yeah, they're going to be mining that over here. So that's an interesting mechanic, actually. I'm also kind of worried that these things will end up getting themselves killed somehow, but then again, you can actually instruct them to mine specific things, so I guess we can keep that under control. Again, not in love with the fact that the optimal thing seems to be just sitting around waiting, but yeah, there you go. And while we watch our little mining army do their thing, it's also a good moment for me to actually plug the fact that if you don't want to wait around for anything, you can become a member of the channel, and members do get early access as well as be credited in the, credits. That's what they're for. I suck at plugging this. Most people probably don't even know you can become a member of the channel. And obviously don't feel obligated at all either. I don't need the money per se, but it is a nice way to kind of spend some extra money on getting games and stuff like that for the channel. So, consider it if you're still here. Now, let's move on to the next level. Let's take a trip to the ruinous shores. That seems like a lot of fun. Not entirely sure why I can pick between two different capacities when I'm launching from a city or a zone where I only have a single one of those. But let's max it out. Oh, actually, I need some more silicon, apparently, to be able to launch. Well, let's do some more waiting then. Okay, then, there we go. And we are going to land on the beach, apparently. Oh, that's actually kind of nice. This is a far larger map than the last one. And it's actually kind of beautiful. I'm not gonna lie, I really like the looks of this map. There is a lot of leftover stuff over here. Is this trying to tell me the enemy will be landing somewhere in the water? Maybe. I don't know. The defenses seem to suggest that, definitely. Although, on the other hand, the defenses also seem to suggest that the enemy might be coming from over here. I guess there's only one way to find out, and that is to do some exploring. Okay, so it's actually kind of interesting, and there's a drop zone here on the bottom left, but there's also a drop zone here on the top left. And that means we're going to have to be a little bit more creative about how we defend, and because I turned on the RTS, that might also imply that the enemy might just walk around my defense because I can't build them in the water as far as I know. Let me think about this for a moment. So what is interesting is I can actually just rebuild the stuff that was already in here. I'm not sure if that's the best way to go about this. This seems to be a mix of anti-air and anti-ground with those new hill turrets that we unlocked the last time around. Honestly, it doesn't look like a too bad type way to set this up. This does kind of cover all our bases, literally. Not entirely sure if this is going to be enough to defend my core, but well, I guess it should be. And we can just rebuild this as well. What do we have here? We have a wave. Let me remind myself what a wave does again. This shoots liquids. So we can actually knock back enemies with water, or we can do some other stuff in here that will start them to melt. For example, if we put in slag. Okay, well, all in all, not the worst way to start this, I guess. However, I am going to want to make sure I think improve a little bit on this, because this seems to be a little bit iffy. Oh wow, what I didn't realize is that apparently if you just rebuild the stuff that was already there, not only is it instant, it also seems to be completely free. I mean, it's damaged, but I'll take it. This is going to save me a lot of resources to get ourselves going. Okay, so step one, this facility over here, it's very close to where the enemy is going to drop, so it makes sense to make sure this one is optimally functioning. Let's get some inspiration from what we already have to work with. We have some hails, which use graphite, silicon, or pyrite. I can't make pyrite just yet, but graphite should be simple enough. We do have some coal over here, so we can utilize that to make the graphite, but we can also use that to power these arc generators. that are going to do some pretty decent damage, I think. Let's see, we can also use water to boost all of these towers, I think. Yeah. And we can also use the water to then use this into this wave, I guess, or we can use it for slag. I'm not entirely sure which one would be better, but if I understood some of your comments correctly, then the arc actually benefits from enemies being wet because they take more damage if they are wet and take this electric damage. Shocked, yeah, reacts to be wet. It's additional 14 damage. That makes sense. We have some water over here that we can use to fuel all of this. We also have lead over here. Would it make sense to do something with that? Maybe? I don't know. Let's take it one step at a time. Okay, so I have to say it's really liberating that we start out with so many resources because that allows me to set up my defenses from the get-go and just have fun building a base. So I am mining a lot of coal over here that's going to be turned into graphite, and that graphite is going to go into these hills over here. I'm producing way more than I need, but I can probably siphon some off to go into this base, for example, over there. Other than that, there are a couple of arcs over here that obviously need power, and I have water over here, so I'm using a couple of these drills to generate a lot of power in these steam generators. Actually, one of these pumps is going to be more than enough, slightly more than enough, to power a entire steam generator. So yeah, this is going to generate a lot of power. I should definitely include some batteries as well, though, because, you know, we want a little bit of a battery pack. I'm going to build it over here, not because I want to probably build some more power later on in that direction. And I also included some menders that, again, also need power and will make sure this will keep being repaired. I'm removing some of these walls and rebuilding them with the larger walls, because I just generally think that's a better way to do this. Anyway, I forgot for a moment that the steam generators do actually also need coal, so I now am producing some coal over here. I should probably make sure that this can actually reach everything though, so, you know, there we go, something like this. And that should mean that we now have a wave over here, a couple of arcs, and a couple of hills to defend, and I think that should probably be enough for the first wave. Now that covers one direction, we still have quite a few more to go, and I'm kind of running low on time, so I'm gonna have to speed this up. Luckily, by using everything that we just built, it's going to be super easy to set up the secondary base because it uses, again, just hills and scatters. So all in all, I can just hook it up to the same source of power. I can put in some menders to make sure these walls stay intact. And I can just bring in the silicon that I'm already producing over here. So again, it's not silicon, it's graphite. I keep confusing the two. But anyway, it should go right in here, and then we can use some of these splitters and mergers to make sure everything here gets completely supplied with ammo. And before you start typing in the comments, as soon as I finished that sentence, I realized, well, the scatters actually need either lead or scrap. Now, I have scrap production over here, but considering that's not really useful for anything else, I'm just gonna mine all the lead that I have right here in the corner and make sure that the scatters are being supplied with that. With those two bases up, we have the top half of the map pretty well defended, so let's focus on the bottom half. We have this little mostly hill-oriented defense line over here with the scatter. We have the lead for the scatter right next door. And we do have some coal over here, which is a little bit vulnerable, it seems, if the enemy is going to spawn over here. But that said, if we can start producing some graphite again, we can bring it over here to the hills, so we can build some additional hills over here as well, because apparently there is none of that here. And if needed, we can also just build a secondary line over here. That's a little bit overkill maybe, but that should make sure that this left half is pretty well defended, so we can just build whatever else we need in the back over here. Okay, so let's see. We have some lead production over here that is going to go into the scatters. We have some coal production here that is turned into both some power as well as some graphite, and that's going to go into these hills over here. Now, this is making me a little bit nervous, but I think it should be fine for the first few waves or so, and then we can focus on upgrading the defenses a little bit further. Now, all I need to do is set up this facility over here to make sure we're covered from the bottom as well, and we should be good to go. And with just 10 seconds to spare until the first wave, I think I completed pretty much everything I need. So you can see the first graphite is coming in over here. That is going to supply the hills with some ammunition. That does mean this is cutting it a little bit close because the hills will definitely not have full ammunition once the first enemy spawn. I do have the lead coming in over here, so the same thing kind of holds for the scatters as well. Might be a lesson learned there actually, that I might next time around just want to start building this. At the same time, I did waste about half a minute at the beginning of the level actually scouting for where the spawn places are. I think you can let them show on the map actually, so I might just do that for next time around, because that makes things a lot more efficient for sure. And I am going to build a couple of these hills over here as well, just to make sure I have some basic defense in case the enemy wants to come through the middle. But let's see if we can manage to get those first few waves under control. Well, let's see, we have only a single unit spawning over here, and it actually destroyed some of these walls. These walls are too close to the spawning point, apparently. Yeah, they're just inside. I think if I replace these with a smaller version, we should be good to go. We have 2 more minutes left. Actually, anything spawned up here? Yeah, something did spawn up here as well. I was being attacked over here. There we go. But it seems to be okay now. The sector fungal passes under attack as well. Hold on. Okay, well, this is definitely a new thing. So I am currently trying to defend myself in the ruinous shores, and at the same time I'm being attacked over here. Can I just go here and pause? Yes, I can. This is the thing we just unlocked, but how are we being attacked here? I'll be honest, I am super confused. There's an enemy unit here. No, these are all my units. So how am I being attacked? I have no idea. I'm being attacked how, where, by what, why? Okay, that's somewhat interesting. So apparently maybe I should have built like an entire factory here or something. I'm not entirely sure if that would have prevented the enemy from spawning in the middle of this zone over here. I thought I could maybe build a base here, but I can't for some reason. Okay, so now I have to defend 2 zones at the same time. Well, I can definitely feel the difficulty ramping up a little bit. That said, there's not really anything stopping me from using all the resources I've stocked up in here to just build whatever I need. So yeah, I'm going to do exactly that. I have 3 minutes to do that, and between all the power I can generate with the water and the coal I have available over here, I can probably just fill the entire map with arcs if I need to. But at the same time, I also have some lead, so I can build up some scatters. I have some just some copper, so some duos should do the trick. I mean, I'm not entirely sure how heavily attacked I'm going to be here, but at the same time, I do have my units as well. I am producing units over here, so I might as well put them to use as well. Okay, something like this. Now let's see how these waves are going to look. Well, wave 1 coming up. Yeah, just a couple of units, that's what I... But, wait, hold on, what's that? Where did you come from? That's concerning. I can just shoot you, I guess. But I'm actually kind of wondering if that was showing on the map or not. Hello? Hello? Can you die, please? There we go. Okay. So there was some random enemy spawning on that side of the map. Okay, well, that means I definitely need to set up some defense with my core in general, just to make sure I don't get this same problem again. But it's also kind of weird, because if the enemy can just spawn ships in random places, that's going to make it a lot harder to defend. Okay, so I'm still not entirely sure what happened with those ships, but at least with some random arcs in the middle of the base, that should hopefully make it a lot harder for the enemy to just race right through to my main base. And if it does get over here, I do have some anti-air defense over here as well. So let's trigger the next wave. It's only 2 units. This time around there's only ground units. And I'll just keep spawning the waves because I do want to get back to the other planet as well. And I'm a little worried what is happening over there while I just sit around here. Oh, look, it's spawned again. But this time around... Oh, wait, the arcs don't actually do anything against anti-air. Well, that's a thing. Also, did it just stop right outside of the range of my anti-air? Yeah, it did. That's sneaky. I mean, it's smart. It's still really sneaky, but let's make sure that I make very short work out of that airship. There we go. Oh, it actually took out my my little steam generators there. Okay. Well, I am still kind of confused by all of this, but let's make sure that doesn't happen again. Let's build some more menders. And let's trigger yet another wave this time around. It's only ground units. That should be no problem whatsoever. More ground units. Again, no problem whatsoever. I should probably not be triggering them this fast, but because I do can't keep rebuilding them. But then again, this should be fine, I think. More air units. That's two of them this time around. There we go. But yeah, this time around I do actually have some of these. Should probably make sure there's a mender in there as well, so these turrets don't get destroyed. And let's trigger that last wave. I think this is the last wave anyway. Yeah, that was just fine. In the meanwhile, this other level also progressed because apparently we're now on wave 4 already. Okay. Well, my base seems to be still intact, so that's good at least. Let's make sure I also start bringing in some basic resources, like, for example, copper, as well as some of the graphite and lead that I'm currently producing, back into my foundation, so we can make sure we start some more advanced production here. Okay, so this covers some of the basics. We have some copper coming in, some silicon, and some lead, and that's a good thing too, because I completely ran out of copper now. Let's spawn the next wave and see where they're coming from. These are some air units, apparently, both coming from the top. But yeah, that should be no problem, assuming the enemy doesn't just fly right past my defenses. I mean, that's a thing, I guess. The other one did get taken out, but I definitely need some more air defensive if I want to keep doing this. Of course, anti-air defense over here is not really a problem because I have lots of lead here already. I have some scrap that I can throw into these scatters. So all in all, that should not be too difficult to take care of those flying units from now on. Okay, with our defenses sorted a little bit better with some additional scatters, I figured, well, let's double up on the copper production because, well, as you can see, I'm still spending most of that. Now, that does mean I should have plenty of basic production now, so let's move on to some silicon so we can also get some units going. Okay, there we go. We have some silicon in production now. We have some lead so we can start making some daggers and some, what are these called? Crawlers. That should make it a lot easier to defend myself. I'm just going to send them over here to this, the kind of like the weak spot of my base currently. And let's focus on getting some air units up and running as well. Again, we only need lead and some more silicon for that. And let's see, there's more waves spawning. These waves are getting pretty strong now. At least they're getting larger, let's put it like that. Ouch. Oh, I keep forgetting that these walls are actually getting destroyed, not because the enemy is damaging them, but because the spawn is instantly killing them. How are we doing up top here? Let me double check this. I should probably reinforce things a little bit further, but as it stands, it seems like we're doing just fine. Okay, so air units are incoming as well. That's great. Let's make sure we are producing some monos over here, some flares over here, and we are going to be sending those flares in this direction, I think, just to make sure we can help out with the defense up top. Now, let's see, since I have this nice design over here, can I just copy this? I think I should be able to. It doesn't quite fit in there, but that's okay. We'll focus on making things look a little prettier sooner rather than later. But if I do it like this, that means we should have another line of silicon being produced. There we go. If we do it like that, then we should definitely now be using all of this coal. Let me double check how much does it need. 1.5 per second, so there's no way we actually can supply this with enough coal just by itself. If we cheat a little bit, we can have this go in through the side, and that does mean we need some more coal to actually fuel all of that. Something like this, and we can start bringing that up here. There we go. That is plenty of coal. It's actually way too much coal, but that at least means that we have all our units in production now. Look at that, they're already mining some lead for me. That's so nice. Okay, And I also built some silicon over here, so you can see, and some, at least that was the intent, some kilns to produce, what is it called again, meta glass. Now why is this not building? Because the sand is not coming in. Okay, that's interesting. I guess that's because the sand is not actually being able to flow out. Okay, there we go. We have some meta glass coming in as well. The only thing that I'm actually not actively producing at the moment is scrap, but I should be able to easily fix that because we have plenty of that all around. And there we go, now we also have some scrap production. Now, I do have a massive amount of resources still left on this particular map, but it also feels like I'm doing pretty well in terms of defenses as well as production. Look, we have plenty of stuff coming in. It could always be more, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely not nothing. And the fact that I also have all these units already capped is a very good sign for me as well. Then again, maybe I'm supposed to do something with those resources because I have the additive reconstructor in my tech tree available now, which is supposedly going to let me upgrade my units to the second tier. For example, we can use that to upgrade the daggers to maces. Okay, and those are a lot more expensive, but they are definitely a lot better as well. Similarly, we can use that to upgrade these as well. Silicon and graphite again. We can use it to upgrade maybe the flares. I need more silicon. Okay, well, fair enough. I just spent a lot of the resources that were stocking up, but I'm looking forward to building some tier 2 units. And with that in mind, I'm kind of not loving this setup right now. It feels a little bit messy, it feels a little bit clunky and inefficient, so let's see if we can start working on some more sophisticated designs that we can also use in later levels. So let's start with an empty canvas and think about how we can optimize our resource allocation as well as make the production look a little bit more well, sophisticated. We have a lot of water available and we can use that to boost most of our production facilities, or at least the raw resources of those. And I'm also thinking that it might make sense to make sure we're utilizing that water to boost that rather than trying to place the miners in such a way that I'm always covering as much of these nodes as possible. I think boosting the miners is probably going to be worth it compared to trying to min-max the amount of placements. It also makes things look a little bit more neat and organized. And I'm still struggling a little bit with the belt throughput, so that is something to keep in mind as well. But let's just come up with some basic unit production facilities and see where that leads us. So how about this? I basically split up the drills in such a way that I can have a water line in between, so they're all boosted, and then they're outputting on this belt, and that belt is then being consumed by these silicon smelters that are kind of paired up with two of these pneumatic drills to get some sand going, and again, all of this is water powered. The main annoyance I currently have with these conveyor belts is that if you don't watch where you're putting them, you will get stuff on the belt that you don't want there. So yeah, hopefully this should be just fine. I can kind of have this template chained together. As you can see, I have 3 times this same facility all over again. And we should have enough water production with these pumps to get everything going. Now, I don't think these are actually completely connecting up. So there we go. That should fix that problem. That means everything should now be powered as well, and we should see the silicon flowing. As you can see, there is quite a lot of silicon there, so we can start making some vehicles. But of course, in order to do that, we're also going to need some graphite and some lead, and I have now set up in a very similar way both of those resources. So the lead is again being boosted. It feels a little bit inefficient to have all of this kind of just half utilized in terms of the nodes. But considering these boosted facilities get a 2.5 times bonus, I think overall it should be a higher production doing it like that. Similarly, I have a lot of coal production over here as well, so we should have quite a lot of graphite production over here. And that I think that covers all the things we need for both the tier 1 and tier 2 ground units and air unit production. And there we go, we have all of that in production now. It's still a little bit of spaghetti considering how many different types of resources we need, but all in all it is working, and as you can see, units are being produced. Now obviously we still have a little bit of an issue with the amount of stuff that goes on a belt, but But look at that. We have tier 2 flying units now. We also have tier 2 ground units. Where are they? Where are they? There's one of them over here. I really like how these, what are these called? Maces look. Not those. I meant those. These. Let me select it, please. There we go. There we go. This is the Atrax, I don't know, but they look really cool, and we have some flying units to support as well. The enemy has been sending tier 2 units at me as well, quite regularly now, so that seems to be about on schedule. And look at that, we should have no problems defending against these enemies. I'm taking some damage, and apparently some of my units don't feel like fighting back, but that's something to keep an eye on, that the units apparently do not automatically engage each other. But all in all, yeah, as you can see, everything is being dealt with just fine. It's worth noting, by the way, that one of the tier 2 units that we can now build in terms of the air units is a poly that is actually going to rebuild destroyed structures and assist other units in construction. So this is going to massively speed up the rate at which I can actually build my base, but it also makes sure that if anything gets destroyed, it's automatically being rebuilt as long as we have the resources for that. At least that's how I'm understanding this. And all in all, that's something that is going to be extremely convenient, especially once we get to the point where we're going to be attacked in different places at the same time. Hopefully, this also means that the AI is then smart enough to just keep repairing my base, and that should increase the longevity of my bases by quite a bit. Okay then, that was kind of a scary moment there when some of the air units apparently flew across all my defenses somehow and managed to start shooting at my foundation. And you can see it's more than halfway down, despite the fact that I'm already repairing it, so that was a little closer than I would have liked. Luckily my air defense was there in time. The only reason I actually survived was because I got the message that the core was under attack, and I was like, no, that's probably just my defenses being attacked. Nope, it was the actual core. So, yeah, the RTS and smart AI and things like that are definitely working, and they're definitely challenging me at least a little bit to keep paying attention. Am I overreacting a little bit? Probably, but at least this way I don't have to worry too much about any air units slipping through for the moment. Look at this. I have a nice school of little helpers following me around that can now start to help me build whatever I need to do. Is this a little bit of overkill as well? Probably, because honestly, as long as you're not building massive constructions, I don't think you need this many helpers. But of course, we're going to be scaling up more and more, and we're going to have more need for those units anyway. That said, there isn't too much to do, I think, for me in this level now, other than trying to make some progress. It feels like most of these defenses should work just fine. Where's that sneaky little bastard going? Uh-huh. Well, you can say they're not smart. They're actively running in between my defenses. Stop shooting at my... oh wait, this is actually a ground unit. Hold on. There we go, my air defenses again to the rescue, and I'm just going to add some arc towers to my defense as well, just in case another unit sneaks through. It's a little cheeky though. I could probably extend these defense outposts a little bit more to the actual water, and thereby making sure that anything that tries to go between at least gets shot at a little bit more actively. But all in all, I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem. Something that I haven't built yet is the pyrite mixer. We're going to need some coal, lead, and sand for that. All of that should not be really a problem, and I actually have no idea what I can use this for other than some ammunition. So let's go and find out. Okay, there we go. Same principle as before. Some boosted production, and then some sort of organized spaghetti. I'm still struggling a little bit with how to make this look clean, but I think it's close enough at least. And we have a steady flow of pyrite. I want to say pirate booty almost, because look at these. These are just doubloons, right? I don't know. Anyway, we have a steady flow of that coming in now. Let's see what we can actually use that for. Well, it looks like the short answer is not much for the moment, because anything that I currently can unlock either needs thorium or phase fabric, none of which I can currently produce. And the pirate site itself didn't lead to anything because it's telling me to produce something that I don't know yet. So I'm guessing we'll just have to utilize this in a later level. In the meanwhile, we might as well just start producing it, start stocking it up. Maybe we can transport it to our home base later on. And at this point, I just have a couple more waves to go. And in the meanwhile, I've been utilizing all of the production I've already set up to make sure my base stays safe. So I figured why not use the pyrite a little bit to fuel some last minute protection for my foundation. So you can see that happening over here. The hills use it as an ammo, and it's actually a pretty efficient ammo, so might as well use it. And other than that, I have built some pretty impressive defenses. I figured why not make some solar panels, although they're barely doing anything. I guess it's nighttime or something like that. Or, I don't know, do they suffer from being next to each other or something like that? I mean, the base power generation should be 7.2 and it's 1.4, but anyway, it's free power anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I have some more defense over here. I added some more arc towers to that. Most of the units seem to be going down the middle at this point, though, which you can probably see if I trigger the next wave. Look at that, there's quite a bit of units coming in. There's 40 units in total. But yeah, as you can see, I have set my units up in such a way that all the air units are flying straight through that, being taken out quite efficiently. And I'm not even sure what happened to the wave above. Look at that. They got obliterated by my air units. A couple of them seem to be flying through still, which is, I have to admit, somewhat frustrating, but I can add in some more of these scatters to deal with those. Anyway, let's find out if it's enough. It's Guardian time, so let's focus on the one coming from above. I guess this is the Guardian. Well, actually, it's tanking quite a bit of damage. The air units seem to be making short work out of everything else, though. But the Guardians are actually getting through quite efficiently. But as long as I just keep my air force in front of my main base, then hopefully that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Nope, there we go. But yeah, that was actually closer than I thought it would have been. Maybe it would be best to just settle my units here in the middle and deal with it like that. Are you guys kind of stuck here, or what? Yeah, looked like it. Oh, some of these units can't actually... Oh, what's happening? Are they dying in the water or something like that? That's not what I want. Definitely not what I want. Anyway, there we go. That's another sector captured. That's a lot of infrastructure built, actually. And that's not even utilizing all the resources I have on this map. But as you can see, I am drowning in resources at this point, so it's time to move on. If you're still here, you are awesome, and I do hope to catch you in the next one.